to the club. Our speakers today are Bruce Bustamante and Dr. Jocasta Ulp from the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce, and they will be speaking about their initiative with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Diane Kaplan will be introducing our speakers today. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, President Tracy. Good afternoon, everybody. I know many of you, not most of you, know Bruce Bustamante, who is president of the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce. And just a brief story, Barbara Cash and our friend Barbara Donatelli and I were at a meeting of what's called the YWCA Kitchen Cabinet a few years ago. And the issue of diversity and equity was much of mine. That's a main focus of the Y. And we were talking about the great leadership at the chamber at the moment, and just thought with all of the new people in our community, businesses in our community, it seemed like a great opportunity to work with the chamber on inclusiveness in that realm. So we called Bruce and he invited us over, and that's where it all began. Bruce has been with the chamber, has lived and worked in Anchorage for 25 years. He's a graduate of the University of Alaska, Megan and Megan. Previously, he was Community and Public Affairs for Princess Cruises. He's a former CEO of what is now Visit Anchorage, and he worked for Alaska Airlines for about 17 years in other parts of the country before coming up to Alaska. And he will be joined by Dr. Jocasta Ulp. Keep your eye on her. She's a superstar rising in our community. You'll be hearing a lot about her in the years to come. She joined the chamber in March 2019, spearheading the chamber's mission to better serve and advocate for the business community by becoming a more open, inclusive, and diverse organization reflective of the makeup of Anchorage. Jocasta is also an accomplished healthcare leader. She has a proven track record of over 10 years in healthcare experience, received her doctorate in pharmacy from the University of Tennessee. She also has a master's and bachelor's degree. She's a formally trained clinical pharmacist and managed care professional and serves as clinical project manager for CareSorts. And she's also a member of the Alaska Black Caucus Board and the Anchorage Library Foundation Board. Please welcome to Rotary, Bruce Bustamante and Dr. Jocasta Ulp.
Thank you so much, Diane, and I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, thank you, Diane. So as soon as we get the screen up, we'll go ahead and get started here. We've got a lot of good information to cover. First off, I'd like to thank the Rotary, Downtown Rotary, for inviting us to speak on this initiative. And it's one that the Chamber has been absolutely engaged in for going on 3 years now. But, at the Anchorage Chamber, well, actually in Anchorage, we often hear just how diverse the Anchorage community is. One of the most diverse cities in the United States. Yet we, meaning myself and the board of directors, we would look internally and realize that, we're not really representing the community as best we could. And that we would need to be more inclusive and diversify at a board and committee and at a program level to be appealing and relevant to all groups that participate. And really, as Diane mentioned, our diversity efforts started a few years ago, and those efforts would include inviting 1 or 2 members of ethnicity to join our board. And despite our well-intended efforts of the board leadership, the overall change was not happening as quickly nor as thorough as we would like. And we would invite a couple of members to join, and then for whatever reason, we'd lose one. And we really needed to get to the bottom of why can't we diverse as quickly as we would like to. So at that time, now I know how that meeting came together with Diane, Barbara Cash, and Barbara Donatelli, that also they kind of saw the struggles we were having, and so we viewed it as a great opportunity because we were not coming up with the answers to truly diversify our organization and really represent the city of Anchorage. So, and we realized as we got into this process that our efforts really needed to be deliberate with unwavering commitment. We couldn't just pick at the edges. This is something that's so important to our members, to our organization, that we needed to be absolutely committed and move full speed ahead on it. So with that commitment and support from the Rasmussen Foundation, we conducted numerous meetings and structured really our first diversity committee. And then later through the committee work, it was decided that we need to have a person dedicated to help create the vision, a charter, and really to drive the initiative. And we were very fortunate and very lucky, I think, we structured a job description, and sure enough, Dr. Alp applied for the job, and just looking at, the energy and the commitment that she would bring to it, without a doubt, she was the right person to have in this job to really, and it was a cultural change, and cultural changes just don't happen at once. This is something that we've been committed to, and we're going to continue our commitment for years to come to truly have this as a sustainable change. So I'm going to only read a couple of items out of the PowerPoint presentation, but from our call to action, we state that the Anchorage Chamber, we're on an intentional journey to assess how our organization can champion diversity, equity, and inclusion as values for the Anchorage business community and city at large. So if we can go to the next slide. If we can go to the next, there we go. The next, and these are important, well-crafted, well thought out, and meaningful statements that really support the vision of this organization. And it states that the Anchorage Chamber, in both its values and practices, is committed to inclusion and excellence of all diverse people, irrespective of differences. This means that there shall be no barriers to participation in any activity of this chamber on the basis of economic position, gender, race, creed, age, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, or disability. We recognize that diverse perspectives are important and necessary for responsible and representative decision-making. We believe inclusiveness is a fundamental principle of every organization that enhances its ability to respond more effectively to changing demographics and needs. We affirm our commitment to reflecting the diversity of Anchorage and the members of the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce. So as we look at the content of the slide in front of you, there are a number of, and you'll see a number of links to access this information and get updates on what we're doing in the areas of communicating on diversity related issues. But when we look at, why diversity, equity, and inclusion, clearly it's for recruiting. We've got a better chance of recruiting employees if there's recognition that we have diversity and we respect diversity in our workplace. Retention, the same thing, is that once a person is in and working whether within our organization or another business, if they feel included, we have a much better chance of retaining that employee as they recognize that they are bringing value and that value is recognized. And then perspective. The idea pool deepens when you include people of diverse backgrounds, and including Dr. Alp in not only our board meetings, but our staff meetings and our committee meetings. We always get that perspective and the reminder of what's the right thing to do, as it relates to particular issues. And she just brings a tremendous depth in that area, and something that's really helped us all grow as an organization and as professionals. So as we go to the next slide, we'll just give you a quick rundown of the profile of our membership. And, as we say that we're the largest non-trade organization in the state. I hope that's still true. We have about 850 business members. And as you see on the business size, it ranges from, single proprietor businesses up to larger corporations. However, more than 60% of our members have 50 employees or less. So truly probably the biggest voice of small business is the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce. When we look at the industries, literally all industries are represented within our membership. And then we included a slide, and a lot of this profile information was derived from a member survey that we conducted in 2019. And just looking at, we truly are the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce, and which is no surprise, the larger concentration of our business memberships are in the downtown region. However, this also shows that we have businesses in really all corners of the municipality. Go to the next slide, please. And then our chamber membership, again, derived from the same survey, and also a good chance to read that our diversity mission is to better serve and advocate for the business community by becoming a more open, inclusive, and diverse organization reflective of the makeup of Anchorage. And we look at gender of the people surveyed. 61% were women, 39% were men. Ethnicity, again, heavily populated on the white or Caucasian side, but still, more importantly, is look at the diversity on the race side. And on the age group, we see kind of two bubbles there. The 45 to 64 age group. It's probably no surprise, I'm in that age group. And then also we see one at 25 to 34. And I think the best reasoning we have there is we have a very active young professionals group. And in working to really represent the economy here, and it was probably 5 or 6 years ago that the Chamber created a young professionals group. And I believe there's like 1,000 active members on Facebook, and we have probably 200 members that participate as volunteers or involved with our board. But we also made it clear that we're creating opportunities for that group to engage with our board and with our committees. So every committee has at least one seat, including the executive committee, for a young professional to participate. So that's why I would anticipate we're seeing such a large number in that 25 to 34 age group range. And then, the quote that I wanted to include in this presentation, it's our goal at the Anchorage Chamber to have programs and representation that reflects the diversity in our business community. All of this work is framed to support business efforts for our members and to recognize the changing demographics and needs of business in our city. And I'm real proud of our efforts to do that. I'm of Hispanic origin, very proud of my father and my family, and to just see such an effort take place, not only with the Chamber within our city, to really, embrace diversity and listen and encourage everyone that gets value, from the Chamber of Commerce to participate at this level. So then you saw a profile of our membership, and now here's the profile of our board of directors. Fairly diverse as far as age. From race, again, very diverse. 31 different industry streams represented within our group. So we're making progress in this area to have our leadership reflect the community. And so all of this work is really the result of Dr. Ulp's work and commitment to work with all of us to kind of guide these efforts. And we access resources from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, from the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives. And, oftentimes we learn a lot. Other times it's confirmation we're headed the right direction. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Ulp.
Thank you, Bruce. Making sure we see that now. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight some of the things that we actually did and implemented to get us to where we are today. And that started with doing a pretty detailed assessment of the chamber and seeing where there were some barriers or some roadblocks or just areas of improvement for the chamber overall. And so one of the first things I did was craft a 3-year strategic plan of how we would execute this work. With the first one, just truly socializing the concept of the chamber actively seeking diversity, equity, and inclusive efforts, letting the communities know this and stating our intentions very clearly. We also met with several key stakeholders throughout the community to see where we could partner and where we could work from any harm that might have occurred or any any spaces where they felt that there wasn't an access point into the chamber. So had some tough conversations, some honest conversations with a lot of different groups around town who represented an array of communities within the business setting. And because when we think diversity, we think of it as twofold. So there's diversity of the person themselves and some of those things that you can see and some of the things you can't see, but more of that self-identification, the race, religion, the gender identity, the sexual orientation, those things, kind of more of the kind of check the box diversity kind of things. But then we also want to go much, much deeper than that, go not be so superficial in our efforts and not be so token in our efforts there. And so we wanted to look at things like how were we being more inclusive towards those that were introverts and making sure that they were encouraged to participate and felt value in coming to our different events and our meetings. We wanted to also ensure that there was diversity in business type. And so looking at those businesses that were very small, that might have had one employee or been a sole proprietorship, looking at those businesses that were all virtual, not having that brick and mortar setting, looking at those that had more unique or different types of industries that they were penetrating. And so trying to change the entire fabric and look diverse in so many different ways. And when we looked at that and we started to do that, we quickly knew that we couldn't do it alone and that we needed a committee and having all of those different thoughts participate. So we created a diversity committee. And one of the nice things about this, while it's heavily attended by chamber members, it is actually open for all. So that's another part. If we're trying to see, what are the ways that we're not being as inclusive, or some of those pieces that are discouraging diversity, we wanted to include those that might not be members yet. And so we were able to create a very robust committee, and who have just been giving a flurry of ideas throughout the last few years that we've been able to execute. And one of the ways we've been able to execute that is that we have that top-down commitment here. And so some of the other chambers that we talk to that have been struggling with this throughout the U.S., they don't necessarily have that type of leadership commitment that will stop everything for a diversity effort. And I can say proudly that we do, from the board, from Bruce, from the staff. We really do make a concerted effort that if we see a need within this space, that we act on it, and we act on it quickly, and there's no hesitation. So if one of the committee members thinks that it's important to put out a position statement, for instance, we do that, and we do that wholeheartedly, because we see that we could be trailblazers in that. And by the chamber speaking, for instance, it might be slightly controversial, but we know that if we can be on the right side of some of these efforts, we could also encourage our members and the other businesses to follow suit. So that's just one thing that we've done. The diversity committee overall, they have been imperative of us branching out and really expanding. So at first, this effort truly was just diversity and looking into that. And then we quickly realized that we needed to have that inclusive space as well. Even when thinking through some of the different ethnic communities that might be more introverted in nature and how their business practices are as well. So just making sure we were roping in that inclusiveness and making a very intentional effort of inviting people in so they felt like they were welcomed. And so we did things like a meeting buddy, where when you were signing up for our events, you could have someone that you were tagged to that could help and show you around and make you feel more comfortable and more welcome, so you weren't going at it alone. And that was an idea that generated out of the diversity committee. Another aspect that we looked into was, we've got diversity, we have inclusion, but there's equity, and we have to do more around that. How are we ensuring that no matter where people start in their place within the business community, that they feel like it's attainable for them to reach that the same goals as others within the business community. And looking at those individuals who were in very non-traditional roles within our economy, and that would be the gig economy. Those that are, doing their side hustles. They might have an Etsy page. Yep, the gig economy. Oh, I think okay. And so, yep. And so going into that and just ensuring that those individuals felt like they were welcome at the chamber and had the support of the chamber in their efforts. So we have some power and within the chamber and our membership to drive some efforts within the legislation, especially forward, and can really speak on behalf of the business community. And we want to make sure that the gig economy knows this and that we can be their voice as well for their needs. We just need to know them. And so making a very welcoming space for these individuals and celebrating them. And so we did this as really filling in that third pillar of what we call the DEI work and creating this network. And one of the ways that we did this, we employed a lady, her name is Leslie Olson, and she is within the gig economy. She works for the Anchorage School District, but she's also a social media influencer and does an amazing job with that and has been able to monetize it. And we knew that we needed someone like her to help be our champions and tell us truly what someone within the gig economy, maybe not as plugged into the chamber, what were those barriers that we could remove and let them feel like they're being heard and have a place within the chamber. So we created this network. We created a mission for it as well and a vision. You can see this trend. We believe in our missions and our visions because they carry us forward, and made a roadmap just for the Anchorage gig economy to have it up and running for year one. And we've been able to do it pretty successfully. COVID hasn't been easy to navigate. And so a lot of it has been grassroots through social media, but we're starting to move some traction. So I'm confident that within the first year, we're really going to pick up there, and it's going to start to take a life of its own as it really melds and it formalizes its place within the larger chamber ecosystem for us. And then finally, we wanted to also have a place where we could provide education, advocacy, and connectivity. So those are the three pillars of the chamber overall. And so we wanted to make sure that we had spaces within our website that did that. First thing is we created that select language button. It's a Google plugin, and it's one of those low-hanging fruits that you can do, but we wanted to make sure that our websites were friendly for all or most. And so that alone will allow our website to be translated into roughly 100 different languages. And then we created an area that includes all of our DEI resources. So you can go there. So if you're a business or wanting to look into this and deep dive and replicate our efforts, you can go there. We have, there's the 5 DEI steps that you can do today. So that's just those quick wins that you can implement today to start doing this change. And then you can really dive into it. So we've got our chamber highlights just so you could have that. If you need to build up a business case for DEI within your organization, we have tools for that. And then how you can take some internal action and then translate that to your external action. So we provide all of those resources on the anchoragechamber.org page. You can find it and more information about just our diversity program overall, and then the resources. And then last, just a call to action to the people on the call today. It's just, there's various ways we would love for you to be a participant, either in our diversity efforts through our diversity committee, or join AGEN, either if you want to share your support, or you might be a member. You'd be surprised how many people they don't think they are, but then you run an Airbnb. And so you're a member of the gig economy and you have a voice in this too. And we would love to have you connected and to share your knowledge and your struggles and just your situations and just show that you're a part of this community. So with that, I can stop and see if there's any questions. I see that a ton have happened in the chat, but I want to be mindful of the time too.
Thank you, Dr. Ulp. Bruce, yeah, we do have a few questions. I think you've answered, at least touched on some of them. I'll go ahead and read them for you to maybe elaborate on or answer if you didn't address them already. But Julia starts us off with asking what procedures or policies of ACC were in place discouraging diversity prior to the current effort to promote diversity.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we weren't really paying attention of what was taking place in the community. And, if we look at the leadership side of the chamber, our board is made up of 15 elected positions, 12 appointed positions, but the elected positions are 3-year terms. And so then you term out after 9 years. So what I'm showing is that there's a lot of longevity that comes in. And we just really hadn't been evolving and changing. And when we talk about that, it's more than just the superficial look. It's, okay, what do our programs look like? The programs have value, to small businesses, to minority-owned businesses and such. So it's been a wholesale change. So to come back and say, well, what did we do to discourage? Well, we didn't really do anything to evolve.
All right, thank you for that. And then a follow-up for Julius is, how does the diversity of ACC membership match up with diversity in the business community?
You want to take a shot at that, Doctor?
So how does the diversity match up with the diversity from a pure number standpoint? So I don't know if we've compared it to the business community, but we are comparing it just to Anchorage overall is one of the things that we've been trying to stick with that. So comparing it to our census numbers, and we're getting closer and closer each year to that and purposefully targeting that. So looking at various communities within, again, both from the small business and the agent and bringing that into it. And then from a racial standpoint too, making some connections with our Korean community, with our Black community, with our Latinx community as well, and bringing those into the fold. One other point that I would like to make is regarding the board and making sure that that shows the diversity in those two types as well. So making more of an effort to reach out and find and slate candidates within that space that we think could help to expand our reach in all of those different areas, and being that model. So looking at that and being very intentional about that too. I think before, like Bruce said, it's not that there was a policy that prohibited it. It's that no one was looking up and ensuring that we weren't progressing towards just the people that, were in our very small spheres, and making a concerted effort to expand past that. So that's been one of the big things there. But we try to look at it truly from Anchorage overall, from our demographic target numbers.
And that diversity ripples through. It's our board, it's our committees. We have about 9 or 10 working committees within the chamber. We're always conscious of, well, how does that makeup look? Are we getting the best information we can? And that really helps drive, the invitations to bring more diversity into that particular group. And then of course that comes out to our programs as well. So we're always kind of internally auditing our operations to stay true to our diversity mission.
Okay, thank you. Diane's, excuse me, I skipped John's question. What initiatives does the chamber have to increase diversity with the ownership of businesses in Anchorage?
Well, Dr. Alt talked a little bit about the creation of the gig economy network. And if we look, well, do we really have programs that provide low interest loans to get businesses started? We don't, but we have kind of a portal of resources to direct, entrepreneurs and business owners to get, financial information, how to start a business. We work very closely with the Small Business Administration, both, through the university and with the U.S. Small Business Administration as well, and kind of providing direction, for companies to go to get support. Also, one of the groups we worked with early on was the Anchorage Community Land Trust. And, we've done some sponsorships, for their entrepreneur workshops and, giving them free memberships with the chamber and, with the chamber. And I'm sure everybody knows this because you're probably all good chamber members, that we have, kind of three pillars. Number one is business education, not necessarily institutional, but, professionals learning from professionals. The other is networking. Huge dependence on the chamber, that our members love the networking opportunities. That's why the pandemic has been pretty limiting, but still it's a great way for businesses to do face-to-face business. Then the third and the one that Dr. Alpert mentioned earlier is advocacy. By getting people involved, now they have a voice to us on issues that are very important. And then we weigh it out and we can provide assistance there.
Yeah, and I'll echo that for that pipeline to business owners. We really see Agent as a stepping stone for that. A lot of these individuals, some of them, they're coming in where it really is their hobbies that they are, slowly starting to monetize. And if we can give them that backing, the support, and the encouragement to really make that a full-fledged business, that's when they go from that side hustle to small business owner and really exploding there and are able to do a lot of these businesses anywhere. And so why not do it here in Anchorage? And so doing that pipeline of that work, play, live concept and roping some of these individuals in and keeping them here by being able to see themselves as a little bit more self-sufficient in the economy and can really plant those roots and become an entrepreneur and really explode. So we see that as a great pipeline to getting more diverse business owners here in Anchorage.
Thank you. Diane Kaplan's asking what Anchorage Rotary, what our club could do to support the Chamber's effort.
I'll be sending you all membership applications, and that would be a huge help. But now I think just the ongoing dialogue. I mean, if you look at where we're at today, it was because of some Rotary members that saw there was a need for change, and you really kind of spurred us on. So I would say one thing that would be helpful is communication of what we do and what we provide to businesses and how we're evolving as well. And I think that's critically important, that the chambers can have kind of a static or stoic reputation, and we're going to change that, and I think to really help get the word out that we're progressive, we're responsive, and we're doing the best we possibly can to represent the Anchorage community. Dr. Alp, you want to?
Yeah, I would just also add, if you see some of these messages that we put out, some of the position statements, to like and share it. Any type of socialization that comes with positivity and is protecting some of our more marginalized communities, that's always a great place to start. And to have the conversations within your spheres, your communities, your organizations about this, because for you promoting that and doing that, it just compounds on the efforts that we're doing. So we want it to be infused throughout the city overall. And so I would say that. And if you want to learn more, please feel free to join our meetings. They are open to anyone. We have a diversity committee meeting that is now meeting at the first Wednesday of the month, and then we have our Anchorage Gig Economy network meeting, which that goes a little bit more speed dating, networking style, and that occurs on the third Wednesday of the month. And I'll make sure I'll put the links to those in the chat for you. But just joining, spreading the good news, and joining the chamber overall too.
Oh, excellent. Diane Fugis is asking if it's all right with you to share this video, which is being recorded with the other Rotary clubs in our district.
Absolutely. We're flattered that you want to do that. So yes, by all means. And I would also add, I know Dr. Ultraway Shai mentioned this, but the work at the Anchorage Chamber has been so good under her leadership in the areas of DEI, that she has spoken at the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives workshops on diversity. And so she's quickly being recognized as an expert in this field. And we're just thrilled to have the chance to work with her.
Diane Kaplan, going back and forth with the Dianes here, then their questions, but how has the chamber membership responded to the effort?
I would say extremely positive, you know, and I think there's just been, and the result we're shooting for is just more involvement and more belief and more trust in what we do. We still have a long ways to go. You know, that's something that Jocasta and I were on a conference, I think it was last week, with Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, and they made it real clear that, you know, this isn't just, you know, do your 3 years worth of work and then walk away from it. It is ongoing. I mean, it's cultural change takes that. It takes that constant effort. It's just that the effort becomes easier because more people are on board. It's ingrained in your practices. It's truly a representation of who you are at this point. But yeah, it's going to continue.
Thank you. Excuse me, David Parrish is asking, what have you learned about the importance of discussing issues of interest to diverse, younger business people on where the business world is going, rather than the way issues were positioned by chambers in the past?
You know what? Let me take a stab at this. I think I believe I understand what Dave is asking. And it seems to add more validity on our advocacy issues when we get the validation and support of the young professionals. And let me, it gives more of a broader perspective. Every year we have a young professional summit, and I think it's going to be the 4th annual coming up. And corporations, large companies and leadership, they're just anxious to get on that program. They want to talk to the young professionals. They want to talk to the kind of the newer members of the economy coming in. They want to talk to and listen to, you know, what their needs are and such. And then we also do a legislative fly-in each year. And we've been bringing members of our young professional groups along, and they're just, I mean, our legislators and members of the administration are very much interested in what, you know, the young professionals, what their needs are, what they see, what's their vision of the future. So it's really been a two-way street there. You know, they bring a lot to us, but also it adds a lot of validation and kind of a more thorough vetting of the issues as we move them forward.
Okay, great. I've got a question about your board and how you guarantee, you know, diversity among your board members. What's your process for electing board members, and how do you navigate it so that process isn't biased?
Yeah, I think, and Jocasta had mentioned this earlier, as far as really kind of a full penetration and openness in the marketplace, encouraging people to apply to be on the board of directors. And you really have to have that commitment, or else they don't want to be part of it. They don't have trust that they're going to be listened to. So we have that. And really it's open recruiting to encourage people to run for the board of directors. So that's for the elected seats, and those are 3-year seats. The incoming chair has the ability of appointing 12 members. So that's a great opportunity for us right there. If we see that we're missing in areas, and frankly, you know, it doesn't, if we get more on the diverse side there, the better. But if there's an imbalance and something that we can control, then all of a sudden you've got 12 seats. Those are voting seats along with the 15, so 12 of the 27. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. And then of course, people, if they want to run for the board, got to be a member. If you're not an incumbent, you need to get a petition of, I think it's 20 other members signed, and then you're on the ballot, you know, and it's a fairly open process.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we did too was just changing the mindset of what it means to bring value as a board member. And so it's not just being able to write your checks or have this large corporation that's behind you, because that, again, that really leaves out so many businesses and with people within the business community. And so really expanding that where, oh, you might not be able to write a large check, but you're able to get, you know, hundreds of people to show up to an event by, you know, who you know in your sphere, and different types of people too. So maybe you have the voice of your community can really share this and can help us expand into different spaces. So that was a mindset and a change that we did as an organization that has done us wonders. And then also, you know, thinking through how not having those financial barriers as well. So let's say it was someone that we found that could be an amazing board member, but chamber membership might not be in scope from them from a financial standpoint. We have ways that we can do scholarships for those individuals and not let that be a barrier. That, you know, we know that they're going to, once they're in, they're going to be such a good advocate for us. Let's remove that, because it's from an ROI perspective, that's going to pay back, you know, tenfold by having them, bringing them in and having them be a really active board member. So looking at all of those different ways. And again, that came with those conversations that we'd had with lots of people in the community of, you know, oh, it was great, but maybe $500 isn't what I can do. It's like, okay, let's see if we can, you know, we can get around that and work through that. So having those key points has made a difference with who we've been able to recruit. And we've gotten some really good pipelines from our YPG group, you know, as they're kind of leveling up and coming out of YPG. That's been a great pipeline. And since that's been a naturally more diverse organization, it's fed into the leadership for the chamber overall.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm going to turn it back over to President Tracy. She's has some closing words.
Dr. Ulp and Bruce, thank you for speaking to us today. Great presentation. In recognition of your presentation, we will be making a donation in your names to the Children's Lunchbox. And thank you to Kara, who was our program chair this month. Great job, Kara. Appreciate that. Next week, we'll be back here on Zoom. Our guest is Linda Leary,